Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of the Pixel Crashers podcast, a podcast where Kev apparently is so obsessed with Fallout that he actually moved into a vault. I'm Angelus de Mortiel, joined once again by KevN7.
I'm still loving these games, bro.
He don't anybody tell him that he's been muted. We're actually trying to keep that a secret from him. We also have Xaiphen here.
Hi.
Who is going to be our sign language interpreter for the podcast. So
Stare blankly into the camera. Oh my god.
that's really what we need. We need a for the people that listen to it only on audio, we need sign language interpreters over audio only.
I am not good at interpreting anything, even
Facts.
into English.
Unfortunately, I think that a lot of us are male, so that our interpretation values are pretty low.
Only when it comes to listening to my wife.
Yep. So, this has been a crazy last 2 weeks since our last podcast. Pretty insane stuff. So, to start off, like, there's been a lot of like updates and a whole bunch of shit going on. So, I suppose the first thing we'll do is, for our resident Warframe updates, we're gonna go to Xaiphen to give us his thoughts on the what is it? The sacrifice? I can't.
Yeah, the sacrifice. I haven't made it all through that story arc yet. I only started on it today. I was busy messing around tweaking shit because that's the whole point of Warframe is tweaking shit. Whether it's fashion frame or equipment frame, whatever the fuck it is, that is the entire point of that game. It's collecting and tweaking lots. But the thing is, on there, like so far it's looking pretty. It's got a little bit of annoying things on the interactive story add-on for that update. They're just like, oh, search for this. Like, it's kind of cool, but like, if you want a detective game, Batman does it better. Come on.
So is LA Noire.
Yeah, true. Well, there's lots of games, honestly. Just Batman came to the top of my head because I've been recently playing that one.
Which one?
Actually finish Arkham Asylum, which I abandoned years ago, or sort of
It's the
abandoned.
best one.
It's they're all good, but yeah,
No, they're all good. My favorite was Arkham Asylum, but they're all good.
I honestly liked Arkham City the best. I actually kind of thought that I love the aesthetic of it. I loved in Arkham Knight. I didn't like the mandatory driving parts. That was what really kind of threw me off for it.
Yet I'm saving that one for last. I will get to it eventually. I'm doing a mixed up order here. I started like the first mission on Arkham Asylum, and that was like 10 years ago, whenever it first came out. And then I went 4 years ago and completely played Arkham City, and now I'm going back to Arkham Asylum to finish that, and then I'll move on to Arkham Knight.
Arkham City is a good one. Actually, the community generally consensus says that Arkham City is the better game. I like games with small hub worlds. That's probably why I love Mass Effect 2 so much. It's probably why I love Arkham Asylum so much, because it's a smaller hub world. I feel like a lot of open world games is just a lot of... We have this big open space, and it just adds fluff.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make the game better. It's just, oh, hey, here's more space for you to travel to your next checkpoint.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that I think that comparative, like, I think that Arkham City... And I can't speak to Arkham Knight. I was so turned off. I never actually played that one. I'll be honest with you. I played the other three. But with Arkham City, it actually felt was one of the better examples of an open world game to me. And that's primarily because it, like, yes, it was kind of big and spacious and stuff. But at the same time, it did not feel completely empty. Like, there was always, like, criminal scum on the streets that I could find and go and beat down. So it felt like it was kind of living.
More importantly than that, to make it through the story did not feel like you were having to go through a whole crap load of fetch quests just to make your way through that. Like, you could go through the story and then it kind of had an open end, to it where you can then run all the fetch quests if you want. Because, of course, that for some reason that seems to be a necessity for open world, and mostly it's aggravating. I do get a certain amount of entertainment out of it, but well, not aggravating, tedious. Tedious. It's not at all aggravating. It's tedious, is what it is. If I want something that's time consuming, it's mildly entertaining, then the open world fetch quests, they do the trick. But it's not the best thing out there as far as gaming. There's a lot of other better options in my opinion, but it's good for a time killer.
Yeah.
But like looking back at Warframe, one thing I'm not impressed with is their like customizable UI isn't. You can customize the look, but not the function of it, which has disappointed me because, like Warframe is a very high developmental game. They put a lot of work into it continuously. They have for 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
But that, like, as far as that goes, and there's a lot of tweaks, a lot of customization support, and other stuff like that. One thing that they don't support is simultaneous connection of like a keyboard and mouse control and a controller. If you have a controller connected to your computer, when you start up that game, any kind of controller, whether it's a Steam controller or Xbox, whatever, it goes into a controller mode effect and disables mouse clicks.
So that's kind of annoying.
If you like to run through the menus with keyboard and mouse, or more particularly just a mouse, you can't do that. You can move the cursor around, but you can't click on anything. It is fucking worthless, and they still have not fixed that. It's been that way for a long time. Now, up until 3 updates ago or whatever, they did a pretty significant UI change. You could go through with the controller in like any other game in there, using the left stick is more or less a menu item highlight. So it's like, tapping up and down like everybody's used to and everything. Well, they recently changed it so you have a sluggish, lazy fucking cursor with that left stick.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not an improvement. It just actually made it worse. But
here's go ahead and finish, Xaiphen. I want to share something fun I just saw. Go ahead and finish.
What I was going to say though, there's a little bit of a workaround on that. At least Steam Controller has complete functionality if it is not in a controller mode, or at least in the mission it does. So what I do is I start the game up with no controllers connected whatsoever, and then start up my Steam Controller after the game's already running. So that gets the job done. It works fine in mission, in the gameplay environment, and then I can use mouse and the menus like I want to.
Yeah. Just real quick to address chat on there to Lapisulia. Yes, Warframe has changed a lot over the past several years.
Yeah, it is.
Now 6 months, it's changed a lot. Like it's a very dynamic game, and that's one of the things that I've kind of liked about it, is the fact that if you don't like it, hey, no problem, just wait a few weeks.
You'll like it in a couple weeks. It'll be all good.
There's some games that are just outright better with a controller, like if it's a racing game, or in the case of Dragon Age Inquisition, which I recently got into, or then there's me. I do adapt well to keyboard controls, so I use the Steam controller for me, and that thing is the miracle to my gameplay style. I like to highly customize and tweak the shit out of things, and the Steam controller fits the best of both worlds. You cannot get really something better than that. It has a slew of options that it can go with, plus that gyro aiming on dealing with shooters is the next best thing to mouse aiming. Yeah, and that, whether it looks good or bad, it functions beautifully, and it's very comfortable to hold. It's a hell of a lot prettier than this Logitech controller that I've been using on Dragon Age Inquisition recently.
Yeah,
I always wanted to try the 710, the wireless variant of the Logitech controller. I can't find it anywhere.
This is the F710.
Yeah, I've always wanted to try it, but I've never been able to get my hands on it.
Well, like my thing is that with Warframe and controllers, as I put it, I've always kind of found it to be difficult to play that game with a controller, just because it is really fast paced for me, and I need that twitchiness of a mouse in that game.
Looter shooter, the shooter tells you what you need to know as far as reaction time goes. Yeah,
like there's other third-person games, like most third-person games, I find that I'm more comfortable with a controller. Like, for example, I recently picked up Mad Max, which bizarrely Kev doesn't like. That game is actually fucking amazing. I don't feel grindiness at all, and I'm really sensitive to grindiness, right?
How far are you in there?
I have not gotten to Gastown yet. I've been kind of just like building up the two beginner strongholds areas, and I've just been kind of going around and like doing the open world shit that you have to do, like, and it's the same situation with Wildlands, although Wildlands has its own slew of problems. One of the things that I like about both games is that there is no there's not necessarily any random aspect. It's like, if I want this certain thing, I go to this place and get that certain thing. For the most part, the car upgrades, and for the most part, you have to like just get the scrap.
Car. Yeah, the car upgrades is where the grind comes in. And then I stopped at a certain point. You start in the second city after they destroy your first base. Sorry for the spoiler. And then you have to start building up for a new car, new parts for it. That's when the grind starts.
Oh no,
and it looks like you're at about that point, because when I hit it, it was about the 15-20 hour point.
No, I'm well past that. So I'm actually on to the third stronghold. So the one guy's, yeah, spoiler alert, although it's a minor spoiler, but whatever. When the crazy dude that builds the car, the mechanic guy, his little like blimp thing or upside down ship or whatever the fuck it is that he lives in gets destroyed like pretty quickly into the game. And then you go to the northern part of the map, you run into your first actual stronghold that is upgradable and that sort of thing. And that's one piece of it. And then very quickly following story missions, you get to your second stronghold base, another person for, and they all follow upgrading your car. A lot of cases, like the second base that you unlock is so that you can unlock the option to have armor on your car. And my main thing is I've been lowering down, well, how I do it, and this is the way it doesn't seem grindy to me, is that I've been just, like, there's different components in your, in those strongholds that, like, you click and hold on them and it'll highlight little places on the map saying, oh, the components for these things are in these 3 locations, or these 2 locations, or whatever. And you go to those locations, you pick up the item, and once you have all 3 items or all 2 items or whatever, you go back to the base and you can build that thing. Like, for example, a water canister, which the effect it does is every time you go back to that base, your canteen's refilled. The same thing with the gas tank. And then there's the cleanup crew, which I find to be very helpful. The cleanup crew is every time you destroy a car, the scrap is automatically collected from the destruction. So you don't have to get out of your fucking car and manually pick that shit up. So, and those things kind of, they give me a purpose. Go to point A and get this item. Go to point B and get this item. It's not a, go someplace and do something. Maybe you'll get something. I'm not a big fan of that aimlessness. So, yeah, the best part about it, though, is usually those items that it wants you to get are usually in places that also are like kind of like the bases. The enemy bases, that when you take them down, it lowers the threat in the region. And I've got the threat lowered in the first guy's region down to the second level, which it goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the second level is like pretty high up there. So I've unlocked many upgrades to my harpoon as a result. So now when I go to take down, like, I don't know if you ran into the convoys yet in that game, Kev.
I have. I did. I played it when it first came out and put it down.
Yeah, the convoy aspect can be challenging early on until you get, I think it's harpoon level 4, that allows you to rip the tires off of cars. And at that point, I'm just rolling up to the convoy, sideswipe one car, rip his tire off, he's out of commission, and I just repeat that process to take out all the other cars. And then you also have the, what is it called, the Thunderpoon, which is pretty much like a, honest. And that one pretty quickly allows you to take down the lead cars in a convoy. So you can get those hood ornaments, because that's all that's important. Although I'm still rolling with the Rockstar hood ornament. I don't know why. Because Rockstar. Anyway, so that game also, kind of like Arkham though, it it generally feels like a good open world. Like, I wouldn't say it's necessarily like Arkham Knight and Mad Max and a lot of those other games. Shadow of Mordor, not Shadow of War. Shadow of Mordor is the only one I've played. Those are open world action adventure games. They're not RPGs. And I think that's something to distinctify. While you have some upgradable aspects, their focus is not necessarily on the storytelling. And I think that's the key difference on there. And that's where I enjoy them, is just kind of like mindless fun of like, I'm just doing stuff and I feel like I have a purpose and I see that I'm achieving that purpose in a short period of time. Whereas you get like MMORPGs, for example, I'm doing something, I have a purpose, and it's going to take me 6 weeks to achieve that purpose. And it just feels like a fucking grind. Like, you never get what you want. Like, so that, no. I don't know. That's my viewpoint on it.
And a lot of those a lot of the MMORPGs are set up on a rolling goal where, like, you're working toward achieving something, but you have so many micro steps in the way that you achieve this little thing, this little thing, this little thing, and the grander goal just seems to, does not seem to get any closer. And once you do like achieve that point, there's been enough of a overhaul in the game, update, change, whatever, that doesn't seem important anymore. So you make that achievement like, whatever, there's this new great thing out there that trumps that 6-1.
Yeah, and that's...
My limited experience is based off of Star Trek, so, there are, may not be quite the same thing, like, say, dealing with WoW or Star Trek, or not Star Trek, Star Wars. Those are the only other, real big MMORPGs that I'm heavily familiar with.
Yeah.
We'll get you into ESO, don't worry.
I mean, ESO is not bad. I honestly think that I think it caught a lot of flack when it first came out because everybody wanted Skyrim with multiplayer, right? And I think
kind of how they wanted Fallout with multiplayer, but not like this.
Well, the thing is that this is like the different. Let's just roll into the Fallout 76 discussion. Before
I wanted to touch on, before I forget.
Yeah.
Nintendo's recent damage control.
Oh god.
The damage control in loot boxes. Nintendo is defending the loot boxes, and it's some bullshit. I posted the article in the Discord, but let me give you an amazing quote from here. Loot boxes, this is from Reggie Fils-Aimé, by the way. Loot boxes, broadly speaking, have gotten a bit of a bad rap. The game mechanics of buying something that you're not sure what's inside is baseball cards. What we believe in Nintendo is that a gameplay mechanic that offers the consumers something to buy that they're not sure what can be inside is interesting, as long as that's not the only way you can get those items. And that's where the developers have made some mistakes. For us, it's one of those many mechanics we can use to drive ongoing engagement in the game.
Engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Reggie can go fuck himself. Yeah.
Yeah, engagement in them cheeks. We see you, Reggie. Love my Switch, but we gotta call out the damage control.
Yep, for real. All right, so moving on to Fallout 76, or as I like to call it, I've got you in my vats.
There's no fucking single player.
Alternative to that. Somebody came up with a alternative statement that actually sounded pretty damn good too. I don't know if I can.
I can't see why more people haven't been jumping on the correlation between Soldier 76 here. Like, it was too easy. I've got you in my vats just made sense. Like Kev even agreed with that one.
I agree with. Well, I had to wait and see on the game. I told you that when I first saw it. Mm-hmm. Let's wait and see what happens.
Because I mean, VATS acts just like your the visor that Soldier 76 has.
I don't want to set the world on fire. That's what that was.
Oh,
yeah.
But in any case, so Fallout 76 is a Rust-like experience. Although both
they don't want to call it that.
But Pete Hines and what's the guy from
Todd Howard?
Yeah, Todd Howard and Pete Hines have both been very clear that there's some way in which they are trying to prevent griefing Yet they seem to be very scant on details on how that's actually going to happen.
I don't think they understand that this game is a griefing simulator.
Like, they don't understand that that genre is a griefing simulator. That is literally what that genre is. If you have that open world building PvP environment, it is literally a fucking griefing genre. That's what it's meant for.
The thing is, it's the minute you allow for PvP,
yep,
you open that up. Because the problem is with PvP, you have people that are only playing PvP to get kills. That is their only concern. They just want to kill motherfuckers. Then you have the people that like, oh, well, I just want a good PvE experience. They don't give a fuck about your PvE experience. Yeah. They really don't. They're just like, well, I want to go shoot someone. You're here. It's more fun to shoot people than AI. While you're trying to quest, pop, 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 pop.
That's literally about it.
That's why I'm not playing Fallout 76. I might play the beta if I can get the beta code.
Yeah, my thing is that, and we'll go to Xaiphen on this in a moment here. Like, I've strayed away from a lot of PvP games, admittedly. So full disclosure, I'm not exactly the most impartial judge of PvP games, which is why I don't try to judge them, because I really can't. Because I'm one of those toxic people in PvP games. That's why I had to put down Overwatch, and then eventually pretty much like Rainbow Six Siege. I had to get away from the PvP and all of those because I get toxic. I get really frustrated and I get really angry, and I'm that asshole. I'm that person that makes everybody else's experience worse. So I'm self-aware enough to realize that, unlike a lot of people that I notice in those games. So I stopped playing them. And so when I hear this, I'm like, this not only is just like a competitive PvP, this is like a deceptive PvP, which I think is arguably worse. Right. I
don't even think they're trying to be deceptive. I think they're really trying to get the core Fallout audience into this. But I don't think the core Fallout audience really wants multiplayer.
No, I mean there is definitely a niche group.
But not for competitive PvP in a traditionally RPG game.
It doesn't make sense.
They're trying to draw in. They're trying to diversify their audience. They're trying to draw in the people who are more dedicated to PvPs.
So that way they can hit them with the microtransactions.
They don't quite understand why people have this dedication. The dedication to certain game types is not out of a desire, but it's more out of necessity. You have the opening desire, like for the game, like say Overwatch, but to actually be competitive, you've got to spend time and practice.
Yep.
And the developers don't, or not so much the developers, the publishers, which are having the developers make these changes. They don't quite get this. They're just trying to see if they can pull audience.
I do want to point out though that Pete Hines thinks he's crafty, and so Todd Howard, I don't necessarily have a problem with Todd Howard. I do think that there's been some shady shit that went on. By the way, just to throw a little shade on there, No Clip, of course, with their bullshit like fluff piece on Bethesda. Oh, No Clip doesn't make fluff pieces, yet you didn't talk about anything negative that Bethesda has gone through, any controversy. That's a fluff piece.
And like that's like, if there is no cons listed whatsoever, that's bullshit. There's always cons, no matter how.
They made a quote unquote documentary about the history of Bethesda, but they didn't talk about the even from an objective point of view, like, because I don't have all the facts of Christopher Weaver's departure from Bethesda. They didn't even touch on his departure, that it kind of caused some rifts in the company and some ripples. You don't even, like, if there's no more details that are legally allowed to be disclosed other than that, that's fine. But they still could have mentioned that, but they didn't, because that would make Bethesda look bad if there was something bad that happened, like the founder of the company got ousted by the other corporate leadership in there, like that never looks good. And then you had the fucking horse armor DLC thing, which that's honestly not even a big deal. It's more comedy at this point.
How about Skyrim on everything?
Yeah.
By the way, that Alexa thing is actually a thing.
No, it's real. Yeah, we'll get to that. But like I've
got my Skyrim toilet paper. Why don't you?
Yeah, like and I'm getting to that joke on there, but then they
I
had
still don't have Skyrim on my Android phone. I'm disappointed.
They then had the paid mods controversy. Like, they went on to this whole thing about how they love mods. You know what they love more than mods? They love making money on mods. And that's the truth of it. Like, no business in their right mind would look at the modding community and not think that that is a prime avenue for monetization that they're not tapping. But that was never brought up. Like, because it was a fluff piece. Anyway, Pete Hines, talking about Fallout 76, was very clever in saying that, like, when they were asked, oh, does Bethesda have any plans of getting into the Battle Royale thing? He's like, well, we don't follow trends so much. We make what we want to make. And I'm like, motherfucker, you are making a Rust ripoff in the Fallout universe. Like, not a ripoff. It's, you know, a Rust genre game. It's the open world survival game, you know, build 'em up stuff. You're following a trend.
It's what started off. It's the trend that started with DayZ.
Yeah.
And then it eventually split off to PUBG.
Yep.
And H1Z1.
So it's funny to me that they're like, yeah, we're not following the Battle Royale trend, yet you're following the same path. It goes, like, that's how it starts, is it goes into the open world, build 'em up survival game, which then someone makes a mod for it that is Battle Royale. That's it. That's literally how it all started. Lack of awareness, maybe. But anyway, as far as Skyrim and making jokes about Skyrim, yes, Spaceballs. Spaceballs the action figure. Spaceballs the toilet paper. Spaceballs the flamethrower. Kids really love that one. That's literally Skyrim at this point.
Awesome.
Like, Skyrim the toilet paper, Skyrim everything. And I do give them credit for being self-aware that Skyrim at this point has become a meme for just reporting and re-releasing the same game at full price without actually giving us any new content for it. Ha ha ha. And we're glad that you're laughing about it, Bethesda, but it's not. The reason why people are making fun of it is because you're you're re-releasing the same fucking game. Now, Alexis doesn't cost any money. That was just a joke, but it is real. It does exist. It just doesn't cost money. But the $60 Switch port? Come on. Come on. Really?
I'm not even mad at that. I'm more mad at the people that pay for it.
Yeah, like, honestly.
Let them release whatever price they want to. If you're going to pay for it, isn't that kind of on you?
And unfortunately, Nintendo, as I noticed, hardcore Nintendo fans tend to be kind of like Apple users. They tend to be more willing to pay full price money for stuff.
Well, I mean, you have fanboys that don't damage control anything. Mm-hmm. I saw a tweet actually by the Red Dragon this morning. I want to talk about here. He was talking about Fortnite, and he's been on a tirade. Xbox dude does Xbox news, but he plays PC, PS4 too.
Yeah.
Said you can play Fortnite on PS4, PC, Xbox, and mobile.
Yep. 3
of these you can play together, and only one of these charges you to actually play it online. Why are we defending this? Talking about PlayStation lets you play free-to-play games online for free. Nintendo isn't charging for online gameplay. You can play on PC and mobile for free. Xbox fanboys came out and called them a pony instead of addressing the issue. It's just how fanboys are. You say you don't like a PlayStation game, and the Sony guys will come out and attack you for not saying it's a masterpiece. Anything. And it's just how fanboys are.
Yeah, I noticed that. There's also, but wasn't it something like, was it PUBG or Fortnite? Fortnite, if you load your Fortnite profile on PS4, it locks it permanently. It locks it permanently to PS4.
Yeah, and I didn't know that. I initially started mine on PS4, and then I got some gigs from Twitch Prime when I tried to switch it over to Xbox.
Yep.
They wouldn't get. I emailed their support, and they kept giving me the same blanket answer about my account, but never really gave me a straight up answer. And now I know why.
Yeah.
They're basically like, well, make sure that you really want to delete it first. I do. They email me back a week later. Make sure you really want to delete your account.
Like, come on.
It's not working. That's why I emailed you.
And a lot of it comes down to Sony's like really hardy resistance to cross-platform play of any kind. But yeah, so in any case, yeah, that's. So do you guys think that Fallout 76 will actually be a commercial success? Like,
no,
you don't think so? Like that it's what do you think, Xaiphen?
There's going to be some level of success behind there just because it's a Fallout game. There is, you deal with the fanatics, the fans, that they look at Fallout, they'll follow behind it. As the series changes and molds over time, obviously you'll have certain amounts of people to drop out for it. Do I think it's going to be Fallout Andromeda? No, but I don't think it's going to carry the same level of success as previous Fallouts.
My whole thing with it is, I think they're fighting an uphill battle. This game is going to alienate the core Fallout audience. It's going to alienate them. There are some people that are going to buy it just because it's Fallout. You have people that are going to buy it just because it's a Bethesda game. You have people that are going to be like, oh, cool, it's multiplayer, and they're going to buy it just because it's a multiplayer. But you got to think about, why do people play games like Fallout, Bethesda Fallout? Why do they play games like Skyrim? A lot of it is exploration. A lot of it is they like to do the open world questing. They like the single player experience.
Yeah, they like to have that big open world.
All of that in the toilet with Fallout 76. Yep. There are no non-human NPCs.
Yeah.
Everybody that you see online is an actual person.
Yeah, there'll be some sort of probably NPC, or not NPC, but there will be some kind of hostile thing, but there will be no non-player characters that are that are peaceful.
PvPBE. So it's like they had a Resident Evil game come out like that a couple years ago, where it was like you were fighting each other, but you also had the zombies mixed into there, and that game flopped like a motherfucker. And I think this one is too.
Yeah.
And then they had the balls to take on Red Dead. I'm glad they had the balls to take on Red Dead, because everyone else is releasing on February 22nd. That became a meme too. Well, they had the one meme with the guy looking back at the chick and his girlfriend next to him. He said, video games, February 22nd, 2019. He's looking back at it, and then the chick next to him says, any other day.
Yeah. Like I did notice that though, and that's become kind of funny. But
it's all because they're running from Red Dead.
Mm-hmm. It's a highly anticipated release, I think, is a lot of it. But
hey, at least it was smarter than Rise of the Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider thought it could take on Fallout. And Rise of the Tomb Raider was a great game. Ooh, it got bamboozled.
Mm-hmm. So then, Xaiphen, what do you think? You're gonna be obsessed with Fallout 76, I assume, right? Because that's all you play.
For the rest of the series, like I do not have. Wait, hang on. I've got like the original Fallout in my library. I haven't touched it. That's as much as
disrespectful.
That is a different game. That's a CRPG. That is actually some good stuff. Fallout 2 were both really good.
Let's see. As far as Fallout,
I have trouble with isometric RPGs.
I have Fallout and Fallout Shelter. Those are the only Fallout games in my library, untouched. So that's how much I obsess over that series.
Yeah, I can see you're really obsessed. Like Fallout Shelter, that's pretty much the same thing as Fallout 76, right?
This game, I'm gonna have to pre-order the fuck out of 76, having not touched any of the rest of the series, not giving a fuck. Oh wait, no, I'm not.
We know Xaiphen's not going to play much of anything that's not Warframe.
Oh, I do hear sometimes.
Oh, yeah. If it has a mech in it, he'll play it.
Yep, giant robots of any kind. Speaking of which,
giant robot.
Speaking of giant robots, there is an elephant in the room. Well, I shouldn't say an elephant. There's a stinky pile of shit in the room.
That's what that was.
So, with robots and that sort of thing, of course we do have to talk about Anthem for a minute, and how how
Can we talk about the Resident Evil 2 remake instead? Because that game looks gorgeous.
I have to throw shade on EA for having the most lackluster and people not buying a goddamn thing you're saying. Like they're like, and we'll have no loot boxes. Chirp, chirp.
I'm so mad at what they did for Command and Conquer. Okay.
I want to play devil's advocate a little bit here, because
it's got robots.
No damage control.
As far as Anthem goes, this isn't damage control. This is looking at, okay, what if like the old Marvel what if comics. What if the Hulk killed Wolverine? That sort of shit. But what if they actually make Anthem into a good game? There's a lot of us, and myself included, are soured by everything that went on with Andromeda, and instead of fixing it, they're like, we're abandoning Andromeda for Anthem, and we're immediately like, fuck Anthem because of that. Which maybe we were right to do so, but what if they actually do something right with Anthem? Mm-hmm. Just putting what if out there.
Yeah, well, my response to that would be, so any business knows, and this is you talk to any fucking person that knows a goddamn thing about running a business, the image plays an just as important part of selling something as actually making a quality product. It don't goddamn matter how fucking good what you make is. If you're an asshole and treat everybody like shit and like try to shove a dick up the ass of all your consumers, nobody's gonna fucking buy anything you have to sell.
EA, I'm curious to differ with us.
Well, here's
Activision.
Well, here's the thing: is that no, they don't treat people like dicks, like deliberately. Like, for example, in the case of BioWare, they had a very passionate, very intimate player base that at one point in time was very involved with the developers. They were a very tight-knit group, right? Over time, first of all, BioWare distanced themselves from that community and kind of like separated themselves and isolated themselves and stopped relating as intimately. And that was also the representation of that separation was getting rid of the BSN forums, right? But then, like I said, you essentially release what the majority of people consider to be an average or slightly above average, generally mediocre Andromeda. And then you say, the game didn't sell really well, so we're not going to make any DLC, which was a business decision that made sense to me. But it's still smacking your fans in the face.
It was still the number 2 selling game of the year. That didn't make sense to me.
Oh, no, it completely failed.
Well.
No, it did not. It failed to meet sales expectations. Like, they made official predictions, and it didn't even come... Like, it was half of its sales predictions.
Predictions, but what it actually sold, it was still number 2 in sales at the time for the year.
Well, that's not necessarily... So, from a corporate perspective, right?
It has to always be better. You want to meet that number.
Well, because what it is that the sales figures isn't actually the part that really makes a difference. Yeah, I probably should. Yeah, but at one point or another, you have to go to your board and tell your board, hey, we're going to meet this amount of sales. If you don't meet those sales, then your board loses faith in you. They start selling their shares. And then the value of your company plummets. You start making as much money. Because what most people don't realize is public companies, the majority of the money that the company makes is actually from selling shares, not from the products that they actually produce. The products they produce, depending on the way their structure is set up, they may keep some of the profits from that to reinvest back into the company if the board agrees with that. But most of that money usually gets given back to the investors who put money in. So that's something most people don't realize is that, like, yeah, like Blizzard made $4 billion in revenue from loot box. Well, no, it was just $4 billion in revenue from things that might have had loot boxes in it in 2017. That doesn't mean that Blizzard itself had $4 billion in revenue. That means that Activision Blizzard, the publicly traded company, had $4 billion in revenue that went back to shareholders, and possibly a percentage of that stayed in the company.
Makes sense. You got to pay the donors back, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like I said, a percentage may stay in the company to reinvest, but most of it goes back to the investors. And that's the thing, is that in that perspective, then yes, it makes perfect sense that they didn't want to do DLC, because it would be hard to convince the board, hey, we're going to make DLC for this game that failed to meet sales expectations. Like, and then the board's going to be like, yeah, about that, no. You know, they would have to find some justification that would make sense. So in that regard, they made business sense. But to the fans, it's a kick in the nuts. And then on top of that, they're like, oh yeah, this story, this cliffhanger story that you wanted, yeah, we're going to put it in a book that only a fraction of the community will actually read. And
I'm one of those fractions that didn't read it.
And then the story broke and came out that the reason why the game was mediocre is because all of the top dogs, all of the heavy hitters in BioWare
Anthem.
were all on Anthem. And that really, everybody just left a sour taste in their mouth for Anthem.
That did it to me too.
And if the sales fail as a result, that is entirely BioWare's own goddamn fault, and I have no sympathy for it.
No, I do agree with that. I'm just like sick of dealing with almost everything EA in general. There's golden oldie spots here and there, but that's about it.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to throw out what if.
Yeah.
I'm even at the point with EA.
For a minute, I'm going back to fuck EA.
Oh, I'm already there. Like, if you would have asked me 2-3 years ago, I would have said of the big publishers, EA is my favorite. I would have said that 2 to 3 years ago.
Actually, you did say it 2 to 3 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. And now I'm at the point where they've fucked up every IP that I really love. Mm-hmm. Maybe Battlefield. I'm not ready to throw Battlefield 5 under the bus yet, but I'm not hyped about it like I was Battlefield 1. I don't love it the way I love Battlefield 4, and I didn't love Battlefield 1 the way I love Battlefield 4. I barely touched Battlefield 1. I think I might have 15 hours in the game total.
So my thing is, I
had low interest in most of the Battlefield series.
Well,
yeah, low. I said low to no interest.
So my thought is on here is that when it comes to EA, they're a definition of kind of a lot of the problems with corporatization. Because corporations, if they make money on something, they turn into like sharks with a feeding frenzy. Like, they can't stop themselves from just fucking tearing something apart until it has nothing of value left. And that's what a lot of the corporations will do. And like, it's been done with the sports series, Madden, FIFA, whatever. It's done with like your Call of Duty games. They've been so beaten and dried up that there's not really much new that they have to offer. They're struggling to find something that interests people. And that's because maybe you should like let those go and move on to new stuff. And you're seeing that start to happen with a lot of these big corporations experimenting with AAA new IPs, which is not something they typically do because that's a huge fucking risk. You don't know how it's going to be received because it's new, right? Anthem or what's the guy? Well, I mean, Overwatch was a new IP as well. I'm trying to remember who else is coming out with a new IP. Well, I mean, we'll get to CD Projekt Red, but in any case, I'm noticing a lot of companies are kind of trying to move towards new IPs. Oh, Starfield. That's what it was.
Oh yeah, Starfield. I was gonna say,
with Bethesda, Starfield.
That's a company.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like Bethesda's trying out Starfield as a sci-fi RPG, which because previously they had pretty much two big dogs in the room, right? Fallout and Elder Scrolls, and that's it. So it's kind of like, yeah, I can see them wanting to get some fresh blood in there because that's going to be a pretty tired like series after a while. Both those series get tired.
Something else that you're going to look at a big publisher is going to want to do is, massive number of products, quantity over quality.
Yeah.
Like That's what you're seeing with Disney pushing out the fucking Star Wars movies every year, or Marvel's movies coming out every year. Yeah, like they're entertaining as shit, but there's like they just shotgun fire this shit all over the place. Like, oh, something's gonna make us some money. Whereas you look at CD Projekt Red, like we'll put out a game every few years, maybe. If we get it finished.
Yeah,
we're gonna make it right though.
Well, we'll get to them in a moment, but first, I want to talk about Spider-Man: Arkham City.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's Kev.
Can we talk about the Resident Evil remake? Now I'm gonna play Spider-Man. I played Spider-Man until I saw the gameplay, and I still want to play it because I love Spider-Man. But it's coming out the same week as Rise of the Tomb Raider or Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Yeah, I'm getting Tomb Raider. It is what it is. I'll get Spider-Man, and maybe play it in January.
Yeah. So, just so I'm getting that quote correctly, the Resident Evil 2 remake is better. That's the right quote from Ked.
Amazing.
Yeah, I actually did see that. I was like,
that's one of my, if not my favorite game of E3.
Yeah, I was
the Resident Evil 2 remake.
I was pretty impressed whenever I saw that. I was like, damn, okay, that looks fucking amazing.
Now I understand Resident Evil 2 was one of my favorite games of all time. That's my favorite game on the original PlayStation. Mm-hmm. My favorite console also, the original PlayStation. So I was hype when I saw that shit. I scared the shit out of my wife because I literally jumped out of my chair. I was excited.
She's like, I wish that
oh, she knows how to get me excited.
But yeah, in any case though, like, so aside from those two on there, so Kev, you probably paid a little bit more attention to a lot of the Sony announcements. What were some key takeaways that you thought were good from there?
You didn't watch my Sony video.
No, I didn't. I've been busy.
Trash.
Huh?
I said Sony's E3 was basically trash. Ghost of Tsushima was amazing. Mm-hmm. The Last of Us was amazing. Resident Evil 2 remake. Control, which is basically Quantum Break with a chick. That looks awesome.
Yeah.
yeah. They made a game called Control. It is basically Quantum Break with a woman. That looked awesome. Everything else, I was like, yeah. I thought Sony's conference was poorly paced. I wasn't impressed by the Spider-Man gameplay. Like I said, it felt like Arkham Knight to me. There wasn't a lot to talk about. My favorite two conferences actually, PC Gamer. I thought they needed a lot more. I think a lot more people should have showed them love because the PC Gamer show this year was awesome.
But did you hear?
The other ones were dog shit.
Did you hear the
Xbox show?
Did you hear that statement from what's his name, Phil Spencer, talking about how that he admits that Microsoft really threw PC, like really did not do a good job of acknowledging the PC player base, and they paid for it.
Article.
Huh? Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you did. That's right.
Yeah. I watched the interview this morning too.
Yeah.
So what they did, they had one of the it was a head person from Microsoft, some chick that I guess she's like the head of something there. I don't know.
Yeah.
She was just doing an interview with them, and one of the people in the crowd said, "Hey, I play on PC. What are you going to do to fix this experience?" Phil Spencer came out and said, "Hey, we didn't really respect the PC community.
Yep.
And I basically said he thought the problem came from." And then that's why they're slowing down updates on the Xbox app for now, because he feels like the PC. He had people from the console community trying to consoleize PC.
Yeah,
which was a big complaint.
That was Games for Windows Live, is what he said was was trying to consoleize PC gaming.
He's talking about this time. He's talking about this time around. Even with the Xbox app, it feels very consoleized.
Yeah, and
he says he doesn't want to do that, and not like in the way that they're going to try to charge you arm and a leg. But in the sense that the way they approached it, the way you do things is a very console. If it turns on and it works, who cares? Whereas PC, where you wanted something really works with and favors PC gamers. PC gamers, you got to sell us shit. When PC gamers aren't going to say, "Hey, it's out, buy it." Most PC gamers aren't going to go for that. You have to show them the benefit of why they're spending their money.
Yep.
As opposed, when you see these "take my money" memes, I believe most of those are console gamers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, another way to get PC gamers to buy shit is fire sales.
Yeah. Which
at 90% off, then PC gamers will buy it and never play it. I wouldn't know to do such a thing ever.
Like the comedy is that that like you have console gamers get a 15% off, and they're like, yeah, you know, Xbox and PlayStation, they have awesome sales too. I get 15% off my game. And conversely, but they'll still buy the game at full price and not care. PC players, they won't buy the game at full price, but they'll certainly wait till it's 75% off, buy it, and then sit in their backlog. Kev.
Hey, it's not my fault there's all these amazing games.
How many games are in your backlog?
Games, all there is.
How many games are in your backlog?
More than you. That's all that matters. You're just mad. You're just mad. You're mad at my Steam ping right now. That's all it is.
I play the games that I buy. That's the difference.
So do I. Just not as long as you do.
Oh, really? Do you? How many games have in your library have 0 hours?
Just DLC stuff. The Kevin Humble bundles. Why are we talking about my Steam library right now? E3, sucker. We supposed to talk about Phil Spencer, sucker.
Yeah, but no, the Ghost.
I do have some games. A lot of the games that have 0 hours in my Steam library though are games I got for free, games that weren't Humble bundles, or little shit, or games that I might have tried to play and had a problem with, and it was before Steam did refunds.
Like I have the full Amnesia series in my Steam library, and like, they're good games, but I just am like, I'll get to them eventually.
Like I bought the Dead Rising Humble bundle, and I've only really played Dead Rising 3.
Mm-hmm.
I bought the Darksiders Humble bundle, and I've only played Darksiders 1.
Yeah.
So there's games like that. There's a lot of games in my library like that where they were just free. Deus Ex, there was another bundle where I basically only played Human Revolution a little bit, and Mankind Divided a little bit. So yeah, there's a lot of games in there like that.
Yeah, it was a IDOS bundle. And it also included a lot of Tomb Raider games too, if I remember right.
Yep, I got one of those too, and the only Tomb Raiders I played are the new ones.
Yeah.
I haven't touched the old ones.
But going back to the games announced though, the Ghosts of Tsushima, I am probably butchering.
Tsushima.
Tsushima. I'll eventually get it right. That someone accurately put it that it was kind of like they looked at Neo, like From Software is like looked at Neo and was like, we can do this better.
I want to see more of what From Software has, but Ghost of Tsushima looks amazing.
And that's what I heard that. I was like, you know what? That about sums it up. They looked at Neo and said, we can do this better, and I'm like, oh, that's savage as fuck.
Let's be real though. Nobody can do the Souls likes better than
From Software. That is their wheelhouse. That is their niche.
And a lot of people have tried, and most of the knockoffs are shit.
I mean, Neo was a pretty good game. I never played that, but like I watched a lot of gameplay and actually read a lot about it. And I was like,
I play Neo.
Yeah.
Neo is okay. My problem with Neo and where you get Neo versus Dark Souls, I don't feel like Neo was balanced well. I don't feel like it was designed around fairness, and you could take any build you want to.
You guys hear this damn control,
and do well
right?
in it. I feel like no, it's not damage control. I'm saying the difference is between it and Dark Souls. Dark Souls, I can take almost any build and do well with it if I actually have the skill in the game. I feel like Neo isn't built in the same way. That's
good scrub. That's yes. We have to bring in the Dark Souls memes anytime someone says that something wasn't balanced in the game, rather than actually fixing the balance. Just tell the other person to get good.
That's the ultimate solution, isn't it?
Yeah, like don't bitch, don't complain about a game, no matter how badly it's broken.
Is that the term I'm thinking of? The finals.
I thought that was just the mentality of a lot of gamers, though. I see it especially in console. If we don't like something, just don't buy it. Don't complain. Don't say to get it better. Hell, you see Xbox dudes upset now that Gears Tactics, which looks amazing, by the way, isn't coming to Xbox. It's only coming to PC. I made a video about that. I'm like, it's probably because you guys don't complain.
I will say that Gears they fucked up that presentation so goddamn badly. You're gonna start off your announcement for Gears 5 by showing a fucking PopCap shit. Like, the fuck was that?
Honestly, yeah, this E3 had way more mobile games than it
Well,
needed.
no. I think that's perfectly fine.
I don't think the mobile game even belonged there. I think, but if you're gonna show it, yeah, get it out of the way.
No. I think if you're gonna show it, tag it on to the end after, like, as the denouement, the kind of cool down. You don't start off by saying, "Hey guys, here's a PopCap vinyl game," like, because now your audience is literally just tuned out. They don't fucking care. Maybe kind of whet their appetite with Gears Tactics, then make the big announcement of Gears 5. And then kind of at the end, oh, by the way, here's the PopCap vinyl thing. Like, that to me would have made sense. But they let it off with a PopCap thing, and I was like, what are you doing? What are you guys doing? This makes no sense at all. Oh, gosh. But yeah. So, as our last segment on here, which I know Kev will have... This is the one that I've been trying to hold off because I probably have the most to say about it. But let's talk about the probably from what it looks like, the game that won E3 based upon how much interest that it's garnered since then. And that's Cyberpunk 2077.
I thought you were going to talk about Skyrim's trailer, or not Skyrim, Elder Scrolls 6.
No, because that wasn't a trailer. That was by the way, guys, this game exists.
We're making it. Stop asking.
I had to interject with that real quick just to play the...
That wasn't a trailer. Although I will throw it out there, I love all of the people talking about, this is where we think it is, based upon these geographical things. And like they're analyzing map geographical points. And somebody posted up like a joke meme where they were like saying that, based upon these geographical points, we think that Elder Scrolls 6 is going to take place on the Mediterranean coast of Spain. And they're like showing all these, like, the Balearic coast of Spain around around there, and they're like, here, look at these points, this makes sense. I'm like, yeah, okay guys, we get it. Anyway, Cyberpunk. So obviously one of the big things that cracked me up, now I heard this leak a little while ago, and it was a rumor that Cyberpunk 2077 was going to be a first-person RPG. And a lot of people seem to not take that so well. Like, they were really angry that it was first person.
Like, right off the spot to say about that. Mirror's Edge.
Mm-hmm.
Mirror's Edge, any kind of free running in any game was always third person. Always.
Yeah.
Mirror's Edge put a first person perspective on a free running game, and they did it fucking phenomenally. I have not played the sequel, but when I played that first Mirror's Edge, a little bit adapting to the controls. It's a free running game, so you got to play with it a little bit to figure out where it was. I thought it was pretty damn good. The story was a little bit meh, but as far as controlling what was traditionally a third person type of game,
yep,
from a first person point of view, worked out beautifully. And so I'm not going to love or hate, or anything on Cyberpunk until I actually play it, as far as that goes. I don't think it's going to be horrible. I don't know if it's going to be better for it, but I'm not saying I'm not going to be like pissed off at it before I even have any first-hand witness to the game.
Yeah, like, and that's my thing, is that of the things that one could not like and be critical of, which there are plenty, to be fair. Like, there are some concerns that I have of, like, when you have a big open world game, which previously CD Projekt Red has thus far proven that they can do open world pretty well. I still have the concern of we'll call it ADD exhaustion from open world syndrome, or whatever you want to call it, where there's just so much side shit, collectibles and little side missions that I get burnt out on the game because there's just so many things pulling me in so many different directions that I'm just like, fuck, and I give up. Like, that is a concern that I have, because it's
the Morrowind sleep aid.
Yes,
I'm disappointed that you thought that Cyberpunk 2077 was the best game of E3.
Thus far, it looks like from the interest it garnered, it is.
And maybe I'm following different people. Maybe I'm following because I'm really hearing. I'm hearing a lot about Resident Evil remake. I'm hearing a little bit about Tomb Raider. Ghost of Tsushima is the one I'm hearing a lot about in Skull and Bones. Sea of Thieves.
You should go look and see how many views each of those trailers has now.
Us are in a pretty specific category of gamers. You know, we are like, you know, old school gamers. We were, you know, witness to some of the first games that came out. Not the very first, but right down there. And we can fall into what a lot of people see from like Resident Evil and Tomb Raider and other remakes or continuation off of legacy IPs is the member berry syndrome. Like, remember back when this was so great? And it's not to say these remakes won't be good. It's just that, like, I also get excited over completely new stuff too. Sometimes if it's a genre that is going to more specifically catch my interest, like Cyberpunk 2077 versus Resident Evil, zombie horror is not as much of a allure to me. It's not as alluring to me as, you know, well, Cyberpunk is. You know, that's just the nature of, you know, how I am. So yeah, that you know, I'm going to pull to the new and shiny of Cyberpunk 2077 over the member berries of a remake of an old game that I didn't care that much about to begin with.
The thing is that you do have very hardcore Resident Evil, or I should say horror game, like audience is very passionate about it. But I think that as a general audience, like Witcher 3 was an extremely well loved and extremely popular game.
I think if it went out as game as a generation, I wouldn't be mad.
Yeah, like the thing is that people knew Witcher 3. Like, hey, don't get me wrong, people. Let me rephrase that. Witcher 3 is a very recent addition in people's minds of like high top quality game. People also know CD Projekt Red in association with that. I know them a little bit differently. I know them as the guys behind Good Old Games, you know, of GOG.com, and I know their pro-consumer positions are very like, I really like those. But most people
from shareholder syndrome either.
Yeah, like I know.
You don't want to be a shareholder?
Yeah, most people though know them from Witcher 3 and how like their news articles coming out of every day of this is how you do open world right. Here's how you do side quests right. Here's how you do DLC right. Like everything that they were doing, they could do no wrong with Witcher 3. Like, and that stuck with people. That really stuck with them. So when Cyberpunk 2077 got kind of teased, like, was it in 2013 or some shit? Like, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
People have been chomping at the bit since then. Like, are we going to hear about it this year? What about this year? So when you finally have that, hey guys, it's now coming, officially now coming. I think that was just like between.
That's the got everybody going. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like when you got the Fallout 4 announcement. That everybody went hype because they've been waiting for 7 years for another Fallout game, or actually close to 10. 7 years for another Fallout game.
Exactly.
So I get it. I get it. I love The Witcher 3. I still prefer Fallout 4, and we've talked about this. I still prefer Fallout 4.
Yeah.
But I think The Witcher 3 was a great game, and I'm hoping that what you call it, Cyberpunk 2077. I'm hoping that it's a good game, but I'm waiting to see more.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is that it is now. As far as a company who's built up to me a lot of trust as a brand, I do see that CD Projekt Red has definitely built up a lot of consumer trust. So as far as them trying to bring out a quality product, I see that as being highly likely. But I will never, at any point for any maker, suggest people pre-order a game unless there's some limited edition physical swag that you're having to like reserve, right? That's the only time that I see.
Yeah, like if you're getting like the collector's edition and it like has like Street Fighter V has that Ryu statue.
Yeah, like if you're pre-ordering that, all right, I can get it. I still think that you might be a little bit bamboozled there, but I understand
like with the statue.
Yeah.
Or even better, what about Red Dead Redemption and its collector's edition not even having the damn game?
Yeah. Oh, that Andromeda did that too.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, actually, I made a video, one of my most popular videos on YouTube, talking shit about it.
Yeah, and that's something I was not a big fan of. I think that pre-ordering is something that is generally a bad practice, and I really wish that it would go away. It's something
like,
that
I like the idea of pre-orders only because, for the people that know, I gotta have it day one. If you like, I remember I used to pre-order a lot when I back in the day before I got my money right, where I could only afford to buy games out of like my check that came out on the 15th every month. I paid all my bills on the first. I still kind of do that. Pay all my bills on the first. Keep the 15th to do whatever. And back then, the only time I was getting games was out of the 15th. So if your game came out on the first, I pre-ordered it.
Yeah, and I could see that.
That's the
reason I pre-ordered is to preload, and I might even do it like the day before.
Even on hard copy, I have not really liked pre-ordering. Best example that sticks to my mind is the closest I ever came to pre-ordering something was Halo 3. I was huge into the Halo series. Halo 3, they were done with the series, and I was done with the series after that one. Like, I've tried to play little bits and pieces since then, but, those first 3 games really it for me.
Yeah.
The story mode, yeah. Even though Halo 4 is my favorite Halo.
Yeah, but like the
Halo
point
3, the story could have ended there.
Yeah, I'm not living on the past on that. It's like, oh, it's the best ever, and it will never get any better than that. It's just that I've moved on and I don't really care anymore. But like going on to the pre-order thing is that there was people who were pre-ordering that game left and right, and I seriously considered it. And then I got either lazy or forgetful or both or cheap. I don't know what it was. I didn't pre-order. Opening night, it came out. Midnight, there was GameStop and whatever other dedicated gaming stores with lines of people on pre-order waiting for that midnight open up to let out. I walked into Walmart, waited behind 5 people, and got that shit out in 5 minutes. I was done with it. No pre-order. Okay, well, I'm glad I never fucking bothered with that. And that has been my continuing mentality behind pre-order, since and will be forever. Like, there's just no bother for it, even in a hard copy in most cases. Like, limited opening supply, that has a bit of an effect, but not so much. Like, because I'm patient, I can just wait till later until they produce more product. If it is absolute limited edition, like they are only making 1,000 items of this, and I for some stupid reason have to have it, then yeah, I could see the idea of me pre-ordering. But more than likely, I'm just going to shovel that out of my mind as like, I'm not going to be one of those 1,000 people. I don't care that much.
Yeah.
Like, if I can't patience, then it's not worth it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. For me, it's just about, I want, especially if it's an online game, I feel more inclined to pre-order because you know how people are, they have no life.
Yeah.
Now they got all the good shit. You wait a week to buy it, and you truly feel like you're a week behind getting shit on online.
Yeah.
It's like, or I could just do it and just preload and get on with everybody when everyone's trashed together, and figure out some shit real quick to get real good real fast.
And that's something that I think
where everybody breaks the game.
Yeah, competitive multiplayer has unfortunately kind of seen an uptick, I think, in pre-orders because people want to get that edge, especially whenever you get like EA or Activision.
Get the best gun in the game for pre-order.
Well, no, not just that. I'm talking about you get early beta access for pre-ordering. Like that's the shit that's tricky to me for those competitive games because you're getting now, usually it's only a week, something like that, but you're getting a week head start on kind of learning the maps, learning the weapons, learning the tactics in the game, as little as there may be for, like, say, Battlefield or Call of Duty, but you're still learning the map a little bit.
It's why Christmas Noobs are so fun. It's the whole, because it's fun to be able to shit on people online. I hate to say it that way, but it's true in these online games. It's why I love Christmas Noobs.
Yep.
Because you just get on, you shit on the guy who got it for Christmas when you've been playing the game for 3 fucking months.
Yeah. But with aside from the pre-ordering thing though, with Cyberpunk 2077, I think first of all, I think a lot of people were really upset, almost bizarrely so, about the whole first person thing. But I guess my perspective is skewed because I knew about it like I think like a month or 2 ago, I heard that rumor. So I was like, okay, that's confirmed, and that wasn't really a big deal. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. To me, perspective isn't that big a deal. I have in my library, I have a mixture of first person, third person, isometric, you know, like all and everything in between. So it's like it's never really bothered me.
Game, certain perspectives have a little bit of an edge for the experience of it, but for the most part, it's like a hit or miss sort of deal. And some games offer you options, but the option of one perspective over the other is significantly inferior. Example of this would be MechWarrior Online. It's primarily first-person perspective, but you can switch it over to a third-person perspective, and you miss out on a lot of the HUD and other effects of that. Trying to do it that way, your controls are, you know, your maneuvering in there is really stunted. Just because of, even though it looks like you can see more, you're actually seeing less. You know, that's the thing, is like, I'm not very hung up on the perspective of that too, unless of course it's like an immersion factor. And and like the racing game I played, which was whatever the free Forza was on the Microsoft Apex 6, I think.
Yeah.
Like traditionally for me, I've always played racing games from a third-person perspective. That one, I found it very entertaining and much more immersive, especially with the real detail behind the game, on racing from the, you know, from behind the wheel, from first-person perspective inside the car. And I found myself, as I was going through the race, I just kept getting my face closer and closer and closer to the monitor, because I kept feeling myself getting drawn into the game, and my body was physically trying to act that out. And like, I'm just like, you know, white knuckle racing this shit from looking at from behind the windshield. I'm just like trying to crawl inside my damn monitor, trying to, you know, get a better heads up view on the road ahead of me.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that I think like first person definitely does a good job of drawing you into the experience, because when third person, don't get me wrong, I very much like Witcher, or recently with Mad Max, you know, I've been, you know, all about that third person life, and there is a certain degree of fun and enjoyment of it, because you're controlling another person. You're controlling Max, or you're controlling Geralt. You are controlling another person, whereas I think in first person it's more of you're the person that's in there rather than another person you're controlling. And I think that kind of changes the dynamic between, if you're trying to do a good story-based RPG. Like when I played the first BioShock, I was really drawn into kind of the way the storytelling worked in that game. It really drew you in. Or another example, wasn't Alien Isolation, wasn't that first person?
Yes.
Yeah. So like horror games, holy shit, first person really draws you in on horror games.
Depends, because I prefer third person in my games most of the time.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a little different. Like with racing games, actually, I couldn't drive first person in racing games until I started playing Far Cry 5, and then after a while I got used to it. Well, I don't like it in first person. Like it would completely turn me off, to the point where I would only drive on the little ATVs in like Far Cry 4. Mm-hmm. And then I'm doing a little more now on Forza. I want to get a racing wheel and just play in first person.
Get those three monitor setups, a racing wheel with all the pedals.
I don't even want the racing wheel. Like, I'm just gonna play it on my 4K display and just go.
That makes sense.
Playing Forza with the curved wide ultra wide monitor, a racing wheel with fucking shifter, that whole pedal setup and everything like that. That would be intense.
Can I get that toilet? Can I get the toilet chair too? When they talk about PC gamers having no life, and you just get the one that has the toilet built in.
Like you really want to get immersive. Let's get that toilet chair so you never have to move.
I have a toilet built into my car. I do not want that racing setup.
I can see that being something in Mad Max. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, two things on perspective though. One for first person, one for third person. Like free running, like I said, traditionally to me that's always been a third person's perspective. Like going back to say Mario 64. That's a free running game. Outright. Like, yeah, it's a Mario action game and all that, or action adventure and all that stuff, but the control of that game was free running. You know, that's one of the first ones I can remember. There's probably more before that, but that I can think of off the top of my head. That was one of the oldest free running games I've experienced.
The only relevant free running game we talk about here is Super Mario Run. Don't at me.
I haven't got that far. But it like Mirror's Edge though, like the immersion of that as a first person game, like especially like that fucking just barely fucking missed the ledge, and all of a sudden the ground's coming at you from that first person perspective. Like it's very exhilarating and a little bit vertigo inducing. You know, you have susceptibility of shit like that. Be careful. But like looking at the advantage of a third person point of view, if you have very flamboyant maneuvers, it's a lot more entertaining to watch. Like Warframe, for example, like the parkour in Warframe, the melee combat, the parkour in there is just like off the wall. It's crazy. It looks beautiful. It's, you know, all the cool ninja shit that you can think of. Well, yeah,
all that fly shit.
I'm gonna want that from a third person point of view because I want to see all of that.
Yeah.
More pretty.
Well, I think a lot of it. So here's my take on is that I feel like from a story based perspective, I feel like that first person is going to really immerse me more in the world. I'm going to feel like that I am in that cyberpunk city with all the neon and all the glorious goodness that we love from cyberpunk, or I do. But at the same time, I do think that like one of the big things in cyberpunk, and especially in this game, is getting all your augs, you know, all your augments, all your cybernetic enhancements, you know,
yeah,
and being able to see those on your character, especially if they're aesthetic based, you know, like
face on.
Yeah, like that. I love that someone made that meme of that scene of the chick doing her makeup in the mirror, and the front of her lower face is actually on a stand next to her, and someone said, "Honey, I'll be right out. I'm just putting my face on." I was like, "Oh." But and of course Ethan, poor Ethan, you know, has to deal with that every day with his wife being a cyborg, you know, and that's the cost he gets for working at a cybernetics plant. Inside joke. Guys have to join the Discord server to see those jokes. Cheap plug.
I'm in the Discord server. I still don't know the joke.
You have to go to the media tab, buddy.
Does he work on HAL?
Yeah, like he said he works in a cybernetics factory. Like he doesn't. It was just he was making a joke out of it. But
the extra joke of Cyberdyne is the company that manufactures the hybrid system, or HAL.
Yeah, like Cyberdyne Systems makes HAL. That, yeah, real life, by the way, real thing in real life.
Like, that's a business that does not take itself too seriously, even though they're doing serious work on helping people.
Yeah, but in any case, though, I am genuinely excited for it because cyberpunk is actually one of my favorite genres, and I've been really itching for a good cyberpunk game. Don't get me wrong, I 100%.
I was going to suggest order 1886, but I can't say that with a straight face.
That's not cyberpunk. That's steampunk.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy. Steampunk. Steampunk's the retro futuristic where you're back in time with gadgets and things that are
right.
Yeah. Cyberpunk
you're in the future with old shit like Fallout.
Well,
but not like Fallout's something else.
No, Fallout is actually post-apocalyptic diesel punk. Man, I'm giving you an education.
That's what said it's something different.
Yeah,
like it's similar, but it's different.
Yeah, it's so diesel punk is the kind of nuclear age kind of steampunk. So it's like a if you see like the
I was reading with like all the 50s shit around.
Yeah, that's what diesel punk is. Diesel punk is like a, you know, the era seems like it's an alternate reality 50s. You know, with the suburbia type stuff, with all that the kind of the Soviet war area propaganda, right? The Cold War era propaganda, but everything's more futuristic for some strange reason. And that's really Fallout. If you were to take Fallout before the bombs dropped, that is 100% diesel punk. But then the bombs dropped and now it's post-apocalyptic.
One where you're underwater in that like 50s era city. Oh, what the fuck?
BioShock.
Yeah, BioShock. BioShock would fall into that heavily.
Yes, it is very much diesel punk. A lot of people confuse it with steampunk. No, steampunk is 1800s era, whereas diesel punk is like kind of the 50s through or 40s through 60s era. You know, sometimes a little bit before that, but the idea is around that nuclear age.
Yeah. Can we take a moment to praise Sega, by the way? Because Yakuza's coming to PC, and I'm very excited. Now they'll give me fucking Persona.
Yeah, we'll see.
I need Persona on PC, but I am glad to get Yakuza. Yakuza and Persona were two series that I really wanted to see on PC.
Yep. But
Yeah,
I also lost my shit for Yakuza when I saw it.
a more popular example of it would be like looking at the second or third Matrix movies.
those ones are more post-apocalyptic sci-fi, I would say.
No, I don't mean. Okay, well,
Oh,
there's
and actually,
two.
no, they are cyberpunk. You're right.
In like I would say in the Matrix itself, the second and third movie are more cyberpunk. Outside of the Matrix is a little bit more of a kind of a.
It's post-apocalyptic cyberpunk. Honestly, that's the truth of it.
Yeah.
Is that it is again, like, it's cyberpunk. It is a dystopian, like, subversive viewpoint. So everything's gone to shit. You know, everything's dirty, dingy, dark, not happy, not good. That's the punk part of it, right? And it's cyber, it's futuristic. So yeah, just because it's post-apocalyptic and everything's like, there is no I would say no established society. I think that's the major difference on there. But cyberpunk, like, I love the Shadowrun games as much as I do, but Shadowrun is a different type of game. It's a CRPG, it's isometric. I kind of wanted something more like, you know, more involved, more immersive than isometric RPG.
It's Netflix Altered Carbon. That's
Altered Carbon. Like, a lot of people criticized it. Most of that was the political bullshit. I'm not going to get into that. You guys can go fuck yourself. Start watching stuff based upon the merits of the creativity in it. But that was very much 100% cyberpunk.
Yeah, that was the example I was trying to find, but I couldn't think of it right away.
And
Kev, there's your cyberpunk Altered Carbon. If you don't have Netflix, get it, watch it.
Yep.
Good series.
And it is very much, and honestly, I feel like that you're going to see a lot of similar veins between the two, between Cyberpunk or Cyberpunk 2077 and between Altered Carbon. I feel like you're going to see a lot of similar veins, because I feel like our more modern interpretation of it has become a lot more explicit and a lot more shock-inducing. The reason why, when you look at Blade Runner, for example, it was kind of like just the dark dinginess, the crowded everything that was meant to kind of make people feel a little bit uncomfortable and show just how dirty it was then. You also had, what was that game? Remember Me also kind of showcased a lot of that as well.
Is Remember Me any good?
No.
Like, you know, every
I think it was gifted to me. I'm checking my backlog now, but I think it was
gifted to me too, and I thought it had a lot of potential, but frankly, it has a lot of the same systems as Batman Arkham Knight, but it's not free roam, and I got frustrated and got stuck in a lot of areas because I couldn't find out where to go.
Earlier than you did, but I also never started on Arkham Knight either, so I don't have that comparison level.
Yeah,
but I really enjoyed Batman Arkham Knight.
It has a lot of the combat systems. It's not the same type of game, though.
Yeah, if you notice a lot of like sci-fi, you know, futuristic sci-fi games, you notice like not just games, but, you know, media in general, you notice every so many years, there's a little bit of back and forth on preference of utopia versus dystopia in the general public. You know, you look through like the early 80s, you know, the dystopian was, you know, kind of, you know, was a thing that a lot of people were looking at, but coming into the early 90s, a lot of people were looking at a little bit more into the utopian factor as far as, you know, futuristic sci-fi goes.
Yeah, and I think, but there's a couple of sides of it.
Years like, oh, every 10 years it's this way. It's not like that.
Well, I think,
not, you know, specific.
You have a couple different ways of showcasing cyberpunk in a lot of ways, and I'll speed this up while we kind of close down for the day. But there's a couple different ways I've noticed, and I try to separate them, but it's tough to really give a word to describe them. You have what I consider to be the dystopian or anti-utopian viewpoint, which is more or less like, I'm trying to think of a good example, like Ultraviolet, for example, where everything looks clean, or V for Vendetta, that's another good example. V for Vendetta type of thing where it's a clean, quote-unquote utopian society, but the story of it is showcasing how not utopian that society is, right? Everything looks perfect on the surface, but as you dig into it, it's very, very not perfect. And I think that's kind of the that's one way of telling a cyberpunk story, is that kind of dystopian or anti-utopia viewpoint. And the other way, as I see it, is kind of being a more the kind of underbelly, underground story, where That's like your Shadowruns and your Blade Runners, where you're showcasing like a dirty, dingy future where things aren't clean, things aren't pretty, but society still functions. The rich are super powerful and can do what they want, and the average Joe is kind of downtrodden and has no real way to do anything that they want, type of thing. It's showcasing a really bad society, but it's not, there is no pretty sheen on top of it like the dystopian view. And that I try to kind of distinctify those, but it's kind of hard because they're both technically a dystopia, right? Just in a different way. But anyway, I'm super excited for Cyberpunk 2077, but as with any game, don't pre-order it. Wait for reviews, watch some gameplay, do your research before you make a purchase.
Remember what happened to me in the Master Chief Collection.
Remember what happened to me with Andromeda.
Master Chief Collection was worse.
I was so stoked for the game, so excited, so much effort put into that. Like my build guides were all prepped and all that shit. Like it got pre-ordered for me. Like the $100 edition got pre-ordered for me for a Christmas present. Yeah.
The only thing that I don't regret about pre-ordering Andromeda is at least I did it out of my tax return. And my tax return is fucking money. Like we literally just split it up and say, hey, all that fly shit you wanted, but my wife said I couldn't afford during the year. Go get it out of the tax return.
Yeah. I can see that. But yeah, anyway, so I would definitely say that thus far it looks like that is the game, though, that has the most interest garnered out of, like, I see a lot of the people talking about, and the YouTube views are off the charts. So yeah, to respond to, I think it was, I don't know how to fucking say the name, whatever, one of the people in chat there that said it had like 100 million views after a day or something like crazy like that. Yeah, it's definitely got a lot of eyes on it, and I definitely imagine CD Projekt Red is feeling that pressure now that it's been announced that, oh shit, this better be good. But anyway, let's move on to final thoughts. Kev, how about some final thoughts?
Resident Evil 2 remake is going to be glorious. Rip Scalebound, or not? Well, yeah, Rip Scalebound too.
Well, yeah, that was alright.
I meant Sea of Thieves, because Skull and Bones is basically going to steal that whole audience.
Yep. Hopefully, be a better game as a result.
Oh yeah. Maybe. Play State of Decay because it's fairly fixed now. It's not perfect. I'm not saying buy it at full price, even though the full price is only $30. But I am saying give the game a shot because the game's actually really good. Mm-hmm. Especially if you want like a true Walking Dead simulator. State of Decay nailed it. The first one nailed it, and this one's even better.
Yep.
So I'm recommending State of Decay too.
Xaiphen, final thoughts.
And here's the thing, I know I'm the way I'm going to be because I just cannot bring myself to buy brand new games anymore, so it'll be a while before I get to jump on the bus with everyone else. But I am also looking forward heavily to Cyberpunk 2077.
Well, it's not coming out anytime soon, so you have time to say.
Yeah, you still got a few years, bro. I think it's going to be a next-gen title. Well, when the next-gen consoles come out, I think it's going to come out alongside them.
It doesn't matter. I'm not going to be buying it new whenever it comes out. Yeah. I'm soured on buying new games. I've got too much of a backlog on all the shit that I've got. Like, new is not a priority for me at this point in time anymore. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that game. I am trying to still a little bit of my heavy cynicism for just EA in general. I'm like so sad. I've never cared for anything EA Sports. Most games like that just have no interest to me, so that's not going to be a care anymore. But their BioWare games over the years have just soured on me. I want to hope that Anthem is kind of good to some degree or another. I will probably never even buy it, even if it is, just because, and it's not just the games themselves. We've already gone over. I'm a big fan of the Steam controller. Uplay works great with Steam. As far as the two launchers go. GOG games, you can hot link access to them. All the other launchers, Origin just fucks that whole system one way up to another. So it is a pain in the ass to try and get a Steam controller to work with Origin games. It's workable. It's more difficult in some setups than others. Mine is probably the most difficult setup you can try and get it to work with, and I don't like that. And like as time goes on, I'm having less and less to do with EA games. There's like about 2 I play anymore. So like I expect myself to have about a year's lifespan left on playing any EA games, and then I'm just going to be fucking done with all of them.
I've largely been done with most of the AAA guys. Blizzard, Activision, Blizzard, EA.
Yeah, some Dragon Age Inquisition, Mass Effect 3, and that's about all that's left on there. Because I still, my dumbass bought the shit, but whatever. There's still some time left on it. I do need to play out Mirror's Edge because it's available on there. I'm gonna get my damn money's worth some way or another.
Yep. Good times.
What disappoints me is I actually like a lot of the game, or I used to like a lot of the games that EA comes out with. And like you said, we see them just going in this bad direction. I don't like it. Yep. Nobody likes it. I can't see myself going completely indie though.
But I don't think it's going to be as good as it looks like it is. I would like to say, hey, maybe they'll do something right. I know they won't.
Yeah, and to be fair, now as a side note, I forgot about this. This also happened in the last couple weeks. At E3, Microsoft announced that it bought up several indie developers, including Ninja Theory, who is the guys who made Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, which I tweeted out at the time of like, you know, while I understand that it was a good business decision for both sides. Obviously, now Ninja Theory has more capital to work with, and Microsoft gets a proven and goddamn good quality indie developer. At the same time, I can't help but lament the loss of another indie developer where the AAA publishers just reign supreme, and it's kind of unfortunate, but
we kind of.
I'm really hoping that Microsoft doesn't. I know Morton and I have had very different thoughts on Microsoft buying studios. I think Microsoft should buy up more studios.
Yeah, and they definitely went that route.
Bolsters up their lineup, and I think if not buy them, build them up.
Yeah,
especially for ones like Playground Games. They've only made Xbox exclusive games. Just buy them out. Undead Labs. They only made State of Decay. Just buy them out. And as long as Microsoft keeps going the route that they're going, as far as, of course, yeah, they have their Xbox. They're going to sell shit on their platform. They put it on PC. You can call Windows Microsoft's platform. I don't, but whatever. I'd give you the pass there. As long as they do that and they're trying to be cooperative, you know, trying to do shit like crossplay with Nintendo. They're trying to get Sony on board, but Sony just won't play ball.
Yep.
Then I don't really have a problem with it. If it ends up being something like, you know, they're doing with We Happy Few, they bought that dev too. Yep. If they do keep
no. We Happy Few, wasn't that bought by someone else, some other big publisher?
Gearbox is publishing it, but Microsoft bought the studio.
That was it.
One of the studios they announced.
Yeah.
So they're still doing the PS4 version. I think Gearbox is still publishing, and they're not going to change any of that.
Because whenever Gearbox bought them out, they started to pull some like pre-order edition, season pass, and all that bullshit.
Well, Gearbox didn't buy them out; they were only publishing the game.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So as long as Microsoft keeps doing what they've been doing, trying to get all this good momentum from the people by doing a lot of consumer-friendly shit, then I'm cool.
Yeah.
Buy what you need to. Make the Xbox consumer-friendly. Make Microsoft's games consumer-friendly.
Yep.
But the biggest thing of it all, get rid of the paywall for Xbox Live.
Yeah, like, honestly, the Xbox Live I don't really think has much purpose anymore. Like, Steam is able to host almost identical feature set across the board, and they somehow manage to do it without charging extraneous fees all the players. And they I would argue there's more players now on Steam than there are on Xbox Live. So I'm pretty confident in making that statement. Not 100% certain because we don't have any data. Microsoft doesn't release data on that, but I'm pretty confident in saying that there's more players on Steam.
They do release Xbox Live player data.
Do they?
They do. Yeah, they do. When they stopped announcing sales, they said they were going to start tracking more things like engagement, Xbox Live engagement. Okay. So then those numbers are out there. I don't know the numbers, but I know they put them out there. For me, it's more or less, I'm literally paying for party chat and to access my internet connection. Yeah. And not only to access my internet connection, to use my console as a server. Because peer-to-peer is using the console as a server. to host the game.
Sort of.
What am I really paying for? I'm dumbing it down super. I know I'm super dumbing it down.
Yeah, because you have client hosted, you have client hosted and peer to peer, which are two different things. If it's client hosted,
right,
that's
those
using
for the dedicated servers.
No, client hosted means that one of the players is the quote unquote match host, is the server. That's what you commonly see. Peer to peer is where they're all sharing the load, and that one's not used as much. And the terms get bandied around a lot, and people don't understand them. There's Battle Nonsense, I believe, is the name of the YouTube channel. I highly recommend anybody check out Battle Nonsense. He has an actual video that very well breaks down and explains the different types of multiplayer setups. Sorry, a little side plug there, but
no worries. But I want them to get rid of it. There's no reason to keep doing that. I think it's a dated concept. And how amazing would it be, to see Sony and Nintendo finally pick up on it this generation, and then Xbox come back and say it's dated, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. And I feel like, here's another thing. You talk that Microsoft needs to buy up more studios. Like, now, preface this by me
saying, or build. What I'm saying is they need more studios.
Yeah, like, no,
they can buy them, they can build them, I don't care.
That's fine. What I'm saying is, obviously preface this by saying that I think that all developers should be indie by themselves, and then maybe you can have those big publishers, but they should still be independent, and not be owned by the publishers. But that aside, if Microsoft wanted to buy up developers, I personally think that it would behoove them to also buy up some PC exclusive publishers. For example, like Larian Studios, who actually, they're not exclusive. I should say they're preferred. They're preferred to PC. They do their development work, and they initially release their content on PC, and then we'll port it to console as they have the money.
See, I like I said, the way Xbox is doing it with their games right now. So I kind of want to see them win a little. Well, win might be the best. Not win as in they beat everybody else. Win, I want to see them succeed.
Yeah.
And so me wanting to see Xbox do well, Xbox succeed. I'm not one of those people who think consoles need to go away, because then I think the publishers will really try to get some underhanded shit. But just as a platform, I want to see it do better. I want to see. Especially now as PCs really becoming more of a mainstream thing in the States, I want to see everybody try to win our dollar. And I want to see everybody, hey, we have the best collection of studios, the best collection of games. We have the best feature set. We have the best practices, the best policies, the best prices, whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't think Microsoft in its current state is strong enough to really compete.
I would prefer that companies not hold games hostage on inferior hardware. That's just my opinion. That's the reason why I am fine with there being consoles and PCs and all types of different platforms, but I really wish they would divorce the whole idea of exclusive games from those consoles. And the reason why is because I would love to see consoles try to strive for better quality. I think PS4 and Xbox 360 gave the world a pretty good indication of the kind of lackluster desire for really innovating in the console space. I think that's
PS4
really...
360?
Yeah. No. PS4 and Xbox One.
PS4
Sorry.
and Xbox One, which were nearly identical in hardware.
Yeah, they're identical in hardware, and both of them were really lackluster. Like, and now the Xbox One and PS4 Pro were a bit of a step up, but there's not really... I want to see them really... Like Switch, for example. Switch gave us something that we never really had something before. It's a mobile... and it really played to their strengths, right? It played to their strengths in the sense that they owned the mobile game market, right? Like, the DS has owned mobile gaming for a long time. When I say mobile gaming, I don't mean cell phones. I mean handheld games. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Handheld games. Consoles. Yeah, handheld consoles. They own that space. Like, that is theirs. Like, there's no competition, right?
There's never been anybody that's... The only handheld that's ever come close to competing with Nintendo was the Game Gear.
Yeah, but in any case, though, they played the Switch right to their strengths, right? They know that they know how to do handheld consoles right. And then saying, okay, now we're also going to bring this into the actual living room console space as well, with a dock that you can bring in there. And I'm like, that was a brilliant decision unique hardware that's doing something different than Sony and Microsoft and PC makers out there. It's doing something different. It's doing its own thing. It's selling itself on its hardware itself, right? Not just the game
I felt like they tried to do that with the Wii U and just got it backwards.
And they did it wrong, and that happens.
They got it wrong with the Wii U, and they said, hey, well, what if we do it the other way around?
Yeah.
Change up our marketing a little bit. Hey, now we have a smash hit. I think even the Wii was innovative with the motion controls.
Yeah, and Nintendo.
Like, it's not like Nintendo hasn't done it before.
Yeah.
I don't know if I wanted to be like innovative game mechanics necessarily with the hardware, because then a lot of publishers aren't going to want to deal with your hardware.
Yeah, I'm more of like try to sell me on your hardware by itself. Like someone just right now without mentioning a single video game.
And we've had this discussion before, where you want to sell consoles on the hardware merits, I want to sell them more on their software merits.
Well, and the thing is that no, I want the software to also be sold on its own merits. I want everything to have to work to sell itself, not just one piece. I mean, I want the PlayStation 4 to sell itself on its hardware merits. I want PlayStation exclusive games to sell themselves on their merits and not have to be, well, if I want to play Last of Us, I have to buy this PS4 that's junk. You know, and
right. See, and what I'm saying is, I don't really care so much about console hardware. Mm-hmm. I buy a console to play the console exclusives.
And when I say hardware, I should
about their software library.
When I say hardware, I shouldn't specify that. I don't just mean I want a PC grade power in a console box. I mean that as in
the Xbox One X kind of is.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
The problem is that it needs CPU.
The point he's trying to get to is, okay, the biggest, granted, you know, the PS4 Pro, the Xbox One X, there's a little bit more differences, but the biggest thing to look at is like, okay, what is better about PS4 versus Xbox One? You look at the first generation of those.
Not a lot.
Nothing. There was almost no different. There was like a 95% hardware similarity between those two devices. Like, okay, sell me one over the other. It's near not within 95% similarity. How the fuck are you going to do that?
I don't necessarily want power.
Because you're going to sell at least to the core console audience. They're only selling it to based on their games.
Yeah. Well, and my thing is
the Wii U was something that was very different. Like, here's all the different things that the Wii U can do.
Yeah.
Like, that's, you know, marketability right there.
And what I'm meaning is, like I said, I don't necessarily want PC power. Just like, I don't want to throw a V8 in a console box. That's not what I'm talking about. I don't necessarily want an arms race in that regard. I want them to try new things with their console. Like, for example, this isn't necessarily a right way to do it. Sometimes you fail. But like the Kinect, you know, throw me something with the Kinect. Or the PSVR, right? The PSVR, man, that's something unique that Xbox doesn't do. Sell me on that. You know, really focus in on that. You know, do unique shit with your hardware and not just make two identical boxes that one has more exclusive games and therefore is the better value to buy. It's like, no, that the software, the games should sell themselves. Like, Last of Us is a good game. Okay, then buy that. You know, like Spider-Man, you know, Arkham City. If that's a good game, then buy that. Yes, okay, fine. PS4, is that a good console? No, it's not. It is boring. It's bland. It does nothing unique. That's my problem.
The hardware themselves for the PS4, yeah. The PS4, where you buy it, is the collection of games. The collection of games on PS4 is great.
Yeah.
The hardware itself is whatever.
Yeah, and that's my thing, is I really want more innovation in the hardware side of it. I don't necessarily want more power. I want more innovation. I want new things. Like I said, with the Switch, Nintendo played to their strengths and did something new, something different. I think that Microsoft and Sony could both do stuff, play to their strengths, and offer something new out of it.
I think Microsoft tried to with Kinect.
They did.
But they didn't demonstrate it correctly.
And Nintendo tried to do something unique with the Wii U. Again, sometimes you fail when you try new things. That doesn't mean that you should stop trying new things just because you failed once. You know, when you're trying new stuff, the chances are that sometimes that's going to fail.
Like Nintendo came back, you know, rolled back up onto its feet and brought us the Switch.
Yeah, they took the feedback, they studied their demographics more, they figured out what they did wrong with it, and then they made adjustments. And I feel like that Microsoft didn't. They pretty much said, oh, nobody likes the Kinect. Well, just throw it away. Like, no, you have an awesome piece of hardware. Just find a new way to do it. You know?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I think the Kinect's a tough one though, because I get why they tried to bundle it in with the Xbox One. Mm-hmm. Because when they had it on the 360, people liked it on the 360, but the attach rate wasn't there because it was aftermarket. You're having the same problem now with PSVR. It's aftermarket, so not everyone's going to have it. So then you have trouble getting developers to buy it, to make games for it, because there's not a huge install base. But there's not a huge install base, so why make more? Make games? It's a catch-22. It's a double-edged sword. So I think bundling it in with the console was a good idea. Mm-hmm. But then they also said, well, shit, we have to meet this price point, so they had to bump it up $100 in price. But it's like, so your console costs more for a peripheral we don't want, and it's weaker.
Yeah, and well, the thing is the PSVR. Like for an example, and I'm not saying this would necessarily work, but this is just an idea of kind of an innovation. Say the PS5 when it comes out, for example. Say the PS5. While it could have TV inputs as an option if people wanted, but say that it came as a dedicated VR box. I'm not saying that would necessarily work. I'm saying that is plain to strengths, stuff that Sony already has, and they could really do well with that, I think. But that's an idea of differentiating their hardware. If it came out as a VR box, a dedicated, like, that would actually also really kick the foot into the PC market, because the Vive and the Rift both are they're fighting amongst each other, but no one's really gaining a huge amount of traction in the gaming space on PC. All of a sudden, now you have Sony coming out with a dedicated VR box. That's putting some fire under both HTC and to Facebook, I guess. See, Oculus / Facebook.
The problem with the PSVR, though, the PSVR has games.
Yes.
But the PS4 isn't powerful enough. Even the Pro, I don't think, is really powerful enough.
And that's where the PS5 would have to come in with some hardware to back it.
That's part of the stagnation that you see even in the PC market, is because, like, trying to look at the cheapest end of things. Say if you have nothing to start, you have no computer, you're looking at probably $1,000 range to get your, $800 to $1,000 range to get a good computer. And I know $1,000 range straight up to get a computer that's capable of doing the VR. Then you have several $100 more, like, $500 to $800 more for the VR system setup itself. Yeah. You're looking at almost $2,000 to get into a good quality VR system, and that's what's like, and people who get in, are trying to do that with their PC games. They're trying for it, but they can only afford one expensive component at a time.
Yeah. So if you sell me like a $500-$600 PS5 VR box, right? Say, and just going on with this theory.
I'm checking some numbers because I think
what does a PSVR cost? What is PS?
$200 at this point. But I'm looking at it now. I think you can build a VR PC for less than $1,000.
Okay,
$1,000 is overshoot.
But that's not counting the Vive or the Rift. The Rift, I believe, is $400 now.
I think you could probably do the whole thing for about $1,200.
Yeah.
Well, here's what I'm getting at is all new parts. Which right now we like as of this week, the last week. Well, actually, it's maybe been three weeks now. We are now actually getting into VR affordable prices on GPUs. But like a month ago, it was easily over $2,000 to get a full VR setup from your, going through your PC, just because of the cost of GPU.
The cost. But here's where my argument comes in. Then, the AMD GPUs. Look at something, what's the series called? I want to say it's the 570. I believe is a VR ready GPU.
Yeah.
That's like $150.
I would think the consoles are more than likely probably going to go with that.
That's the thing. It's like it is now. When I first made that reference, I was thinking of prices a month ago where that was a $300 GPU.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, so I'm looking at Amazon, and right now, the price is still pretty high.
I would think that if
it's like $270 right now on Amazon, and it should be this much.
Yeah,
this was like a $200 GPU when it came out.
Oh yeah, you also got to consider the mining inflation that's been caused. But aside from that, just getting back to it, I'm saying like as far as the idea, the concept of getting a more streamlined, integrated, and like all in one package VR package, rather than you have to buy or build a PC that can run VR, then you have to get the VR package, or you buy a PS4 Pro and then you have to get another additional PSVR piece. Sell it to me all in one package. It's a box that is not single purpose, but it is pretty well focused on being a VR experience. That would be one way that I think that Sony could really niche themselves into a hardware market that distinctifies them from everybody else out there, because nobody right now is really doing VR well. Right now, it's kind of a niche market. It's what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of it's a gimmick, right? There's nobody.
Yeah, it is, and I think when they announced the PS5, I think they have to do a strong push for VR. I think everybody thought that we were going to do it this gen. This gen just was too early. I think way too early. But I think by 2020 we'll be about there. That's when I expect the new consoles to come out.
And that's what I think. Where one way that they could do what I want, like Xbox. I'm still struggling to see where maybe Xbox could try. Like they've been experienced. Like for example, they have their HoloLens. Yeah, they could try HoloLens, but again, that's still them trying to compete with Sony hardware-wise. Like, okay, so we're not doing VR, we're doing AR instead.
Even
then, I believe they've all but abandoned HoloLens.
I don't. Well, no, HoloLens is more geared towards businesses. It's not really. It doesn't seem to be focused too much on the gaming or consumer space.
What I would love to see happen if they did something and partnered maybe with Oculus or HTC, where they had something, maybe it's a scaled down version of the Vive or the Oculus Rift for that console, bundle it to make it run with that console. I know more doesn't like this, but I'm thinking about also keeping it reasonably priced.
No, what I'm saying is that Microsoft, so you got the Switch that's doing this kind of hybrid handheld console plus living room console thing. You have Sony going the VR route. What's a completely unique path that would play into Microsoft's strengths that they could go into? For example, I think
VR is perfect for Halo and Gears.
Well, no, I'm not looking at their games. I'm talking about just the hardware platform. Here's an example. Microsoft has an amazing cloud infrastructure based up that they're trying to find a way to get it to stick. How about give us a thin client box? So instead of us having to have this really super powered hardware box that does the games, really leverage your cloud infrastructure to give a new, entirely new face to streaming games. Because right now,
like a monthly or yearly payment Xbox Live service.
Yeah, that would be one way they could actually sell us on Xbox Live, is you're utilizing your Azure infrastructure, which is the second most powerful cloud infrastructure in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You're leveraging...
And most Xbox Live, ironically enough, run on Amazon servers?
No, it runs on Azure, 100%.
Why would been for a long time now.
Yeah.
I heard otherwise, and I thought that shit was hilarious.
No, they won't. Microsoft is very aggressive against Amazon for good reason. Obviously, that's their big money maker, same as Amazon. But yeah, so the thing is that leverage that platform. Give us a thin client console, like something really small, streamlined. Make it look like the GeForce streaming box or something like that. But I don't know. I think that's a unique way they could go. But I think we really sidetracked. Went off course. We're supposed to be closing up shop here. We get into those interesting conversations that happens, but
so we're not going to talk about God Mode Monitor.
Do what now?
God Mode Monitor, the new Acer Predator, 4K HDR, 144 hertz. That can overclock to 160 with HDR.
Yeah, the monitor that the 1080 can't even run. You need two 1080 Ti's and SLI. Anyway, yeah.
That was for the future. That's why I called it the God.
Yeah. We'll have to wait for the 1180 Ti or 1280 Ti, whatever. Anyway.
I'm going to buy a second 1080 the minute the 11 series comes out.
Gotta stop jumping with extra stuff here.
But in any case, we're gonna get signed off for this week here. We ran over considerably what we were supposed to. And anyway, we're going to we're gonna get signed off. We'll be back next week, hopefully for another game stream. We'll obviously pick the games that Kev likes the most, which is most likely we're gonna play some more Wildlands. We know he loves this.
I won't be there for Wildlands.
Yeah, like.
That's good.
In any case, that's yeah. Anyway, we'll get into that next week. Have a new game for you guys. Anyway, obviously you're welcome to check us out there. There's links for our Discord server and all that stuff down below, and also us on Twitter and stuff. Xaiphen doesn't really post on Twitter. Kev posts a lot of peasantry shit on Twitter. So
tried once.
He tried to post on Twitter once, just once.
Anyway, opened up
the glory
for this, and then I'm too lazy for this shit.
Yeah, it happens. But we'll get signed off of here, guys. We'll be back in next week for a party stream. You guys have a good one. Have fun. Cheers. All that good stuff.
Praise Gavin.